Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Marketing Forge. Today I thought I'd do something a little different. I thought it'd be a really good idea to speak a little bit about my journey as a media buyer for the last 7 to 8 years, give some insight into what I've learned and things that I did wrong and the mistakes that I made early in my career, so that hopefully some people starting out or in certain agency roles could get some value out of this and really just basically don't do what I did, and hopefully these top 5 tips will help you accelerate your career in the right way. Okay, number 1, the first thing that I wish I'd known if I'd have gone back a few years was looking at the 1-day view data in Meta. I know we've mentioned this in a couple of videos and this has generated quite a lot of chatter in the Meta space particularly, but it's also quite important in the Google ad space as well, where you have up to 30-day view data for campaigns even outside of YouTube. So that is something that I used to rely on, and I used to bake it into my reporting, and it used to inflate my ROAS figures, and then that would be what I reported back to the businesses, and that's what we would look at success based on. And now I know everything I know about incrementality and measurement, looking at those things in different ways. I know in most cases all I was doing was inflating the numbers that I was delivering and not really adding much value. So if you're still doing that in your accounts, both in Google Ads and in Meta, I'm not saying don't do it, but just be really conscious of the fact that most of the time it's not going to be that valuable. Okay, number 2, which leads on really nicely, is effectively just measuring in your platform data. I still see this in many accounts. So many agencies that we've worked with or clients that we've worked with and onboarded and audited, they still look at the platform data as ad verbatim, as the pure source of truth, when it absolutely isn't the case. And we've covered on this in various videos, and there's various reasons that I'm not going to go into, but make sure that you're not only measuring success on that piece of data that you see in the platform. They're all designed to gear effectiveness and performance contribution towards themselves. So always cross-reference with your bank balance or your CMS data, basically anything that is the true source of truth, which is, are you driving new customers? How much are you spending? How much revenue actually making as a business? If all of those are looking good and your platform's also looking good, great. If your platform's looking good and they're not looking so good, you've probably got a problem there. And actually this leads into number 3 really nicely. So number 3 is scaling when your platform numbers look good. Part of this is because some of the numbers that you see in that platform, as I just mentioned, are not accurate. So you're scaling based on a misaligned view of actual performance data, but also it's a reactionary thing to do. If you think about the logic of how people buy, if you're scaling when your numbers look good, the performance that drove that probably already happened, and there's no accountability for what drove it and when. So you end up scaling numbers based on historic data, and then suddenly your numbers don't look so great anymore. And this happens all the time in basically all accounts. Scaling upwards laterally when performance looks good doesn't really work. You've got to think more strategically about when a good time to scale based on actual business outcomes and seasonality peaks, rather than just the numbers that you see on the platform. And that leads us into number 4, which is seasonality itself. You need to understand business seasonality. One key mistake that I made earlier on in my career was thinking that I could scale businesses laterally and incrementally, so that I would constantly be able to build on the month-on-month, add more spend in, see that's performance in the business level data, and just keep going on a nice clean linear graph. Obviously the real world doesn't work like that. Real businesses don't work like that. There's periods where they will have good seasonality shifts. If they are a business set for the winter months and they do a lot of winter sales, you scale in the winter, you don't bother scaling in the summer. Likewise, if you're doing offers or new product launches, build your scaling around those periods, not on a linear trajectory, because that just doesn't work and you end up wasting a lot of money. And finally, number 5, really important one, don't overlook creative and messaging. I know it's obvious to think that this is a really silly one, and obviously you're going to look at creative and messaging, but earlier on in my career, I was all about the targeting, and I just completely overlooked the creative and messaging. And a lot of that was because I didn't have ownership of that, and I didn't feel that it was part of my role. I sort of just grabbed what I could, or took what the client would give me. I do all my targeting, set everything up perfectly, and I think job done. That's 90% of the work done. Or as long as I'm hitting the right people, surely they're going to buy. Absolutely not the case. If you think about it from a user perspective or a client perspective, all you really see as a buyer is the advert in front of you. If that's not good and the messaging doesn't hit, it's not right for you, why on earth would you buy? So that's really important, and I know that's becoming a lot more mainstream and a lot more critical, particularly around the meta space and the performance max asset space now. Don't overlook it, particularly when you're starting out. I know it's difficult to get creative, I know it's time consuming to write the copy and make it work, but it will pay off, and I guarantee that. So there you have it, 5 quick fire tips that I wish I'd known 5-6 years ago when I was kind of starting my career in media buying. A lot of this stuff is documented a lot more now, and people like myself do a lot of videos on this and trying to share that experience and that knowledge. But it really is important to avoid doing these things and making the mistakes that I made if you're going to be a successful media buyer and a successful e-commerce marketer in general in 2025 and beyond, because there's just not enough space to make mistakes anymore. You don't have the margins that you used to have. Add inflation, things cost more, performance is diminishing. There's so many reasons why it's so important to get these things right. So if there's been any value in this video and you can take learnings from the mistakes that I've already made, I'll be really happy.